So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the government pushing more and more pensioners into poverty and some of the projections over the next couple of years because of the change to the fuel allowance. Now, I did see a lot of tweets from people talking about how the media never cared when there were so many pensioners dying because of energy bills and things like that. Where was the coverage last year or the year before that or the year before that? Which is a completely valid criticism to have of the media. 100%. Like, they should. This is a scandal that people are dying in this country because their houses are too cold. Now, and I'm glad the media are finally picking up on this now, but that's only in the context of really trying to bash the government rather than for altruistic reasons. And because it's an easier story to tell rather than talking about how high energy bills are for older people. So yeah, let's have a listen to what Liz Kendall has to say.
One of this government's early decision was to take winter fuel payments away from all but the poorest pensioners. And one of those who's losing out, one of our viewers called Jenny, wants some advice. She wants us to ask you, I hear energy prices are rising again. Should I cut down on heating and put on a blanket?
The first thing I'd say to her is, see if you are entitled to pension credit. We've got over...
Why they couldn't make pension credit an automatic thing, where surely they would know how much these pensioners earn? Like, I don't get why they couldn't have made it an automatic entitlement.
800,000 pensioners missing out on up to £3,900 a year on pension credit and also missing out on their winter fuel payment. There's also the £150 warm homes discount, which is available not just to those on pension credit, but those just above. And there's also the Household Support Fund, which we have extended for another year with £1 billion, which can help the very poorest pensioners on pension credit, but those just above too.
But Secretary of State, she wants to know, should she turn her heating down? Should she put a blanket on?
I do not want anyone choosing between heating or eating. That
wasn't really the question there.
Is why we have made the biggest push to make sure the very poorest pensioners get the support they're entitled to. There's other support available too.
Okay. Again, this is all coming with a cost. I don't know if it was cheaper just to keep the winter fuel allowance in place rather than doing this. Universalism is much better than bureaucracy and red tape. This is Goodall talking about this.
When did you get this impact assessment? Welcome, Pension Secretary. When did you ask for it?
The latest impact assessment, following the modelling from the budget, we've made available as soon as possible. That's why I've written to the work. I want to be open.
Did the Chancellor not know that this was what would happen when she announced it? Did she not have this impact assessment?
The impact assessment about the number of pensioners this will affect, there was an initial assessment made at the time. This is much more up to date, but it does not include the action the Chancellor and I am taking to increase pension credit entitlement. There's other support available too.
Could you not factor that in? Could you not do more modelling around that in your impact assessment?
Which this doesn't take into account, Lewis. The warm homes discount of £150, the household support fund, which we have extended for an extra year with £1 billion, which is also available to pensioners struggling with their fuel bills. And in the long term, the only way we're going to deal with this is to reduce the costs of energy through clean energy and to transform many older people's homes who are not energy efficient because their heating is flying out the window and the doors with our warm homes plan. Those are the long.
You talk about long-term changes, as she points out, but you still need short-term fixes. Maybe, in a couple of years, you look at some of these benefits and say, oh, you don't really need these anymore.
Term changes.
But it's a short term. You could have made different choices, though, couldn't you, Welcome Pension Secretary? You could have chosen not to give significant inflation, above inflation pay increases to the public sector, and instead ensure that by 2030 those 100,000 pensioners don't end up in poverty, because at least some of them will end up in poverty regardless, because they won't be eligible for pension credit or some of the other help that you've outlined.
We decided that when the public finances are tight, it is right that we focus support on the poorest.
I still stand by the statement that they should have changed the threshold and put it much higher. They should put it at 40,000 or something like that. I genuinely, I'm baffled by this whole thing.
And we do a major campaign to make sure those...
How much is this major campaign costing? Genuine question. How much does a massive advertising campaign like this cost? Is that cheaper than keeping the winter fuel allowance as it was?
Out claim. And on the public sector, I would just say this. We're announcing our plans to get Britain working again. Now, we can't do that. We can't get people back to health and back to work when the NHS is on its knees.
Do you know what else is going to push the NHS onto its knees much more aggressively? A lot of older people that are there because they couldn't put their heating on and so they've got massive illnesses, complicated illnesses, especially because they're older, to deal with. That's another thing that's going to impact the NHS. Ridiculous arguments. There's more here.
A year, the government has to prioritise putting finances on a stable footing. What do you make of that? Rachel Reeves saw the books. She says this cut saves £1.5 billion a year. The government has to prioritise putting finances on a stable footing.
The other thing is the fact that if all of the pensioners who are eligible for pension credit take up pension credit, there's barely any savings.
What do you make of that?
I completely understand why she made that decision in July. However,
I have no idea why she made that decision in July. I'll be honest. I have absolutely no clue why she did what she did.
Carrying out an impact assessment would have demonstrated back in the summer the implications of this policy, and we have got to protect the poor also. Of course, it is always about.
Do you feel the Labour government
can I just ask, balance on the back of pensioners?
Do you think the Labour government have abandoned those people?
Well, we're already seeing Labour in Scotland recognise the need for reparation, and Asawa, the leader.
The irony of the Scotland situation is that they're expecting the SNP to cover it via their budget, and obviously the Scottish Parliament can't borrow more money. So what they're doing is they're putting more pressure on the SNP, using this as a political weapon, which is fair play in politics if you want to make that argument. Politics is a dark business like that. But the simple fact is, you guys decided to screw over the whole country. If Scottish Labour do win this vote, all it does is create the disparity of why are people in Scotland getting a benefit and not people in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Do you realise how bad that would look to the rest of the public?
Scottish Labour Party has said that he would want to increase the eligibility for pension credit. So that's one of the options moving forward. I've presented the option of having warm home prescriptions. So if doctors recognise that their patients could be compromised because of the cold, they could make a contribution towards keeping those people safe.
This is absolute madness. Like, the amount of cost it would be just for this stuff is crazy.
My view is every pensioner who's entitled to pension credit should get.
And claims for pension credit have now gone up by 150%. So I'm asking you, how much is that policy saving now?
Well, you will see when we get to the end of this year how much more people have not only claimed it but taken it up.
Is it saving the government money? Is this saving the government money?
We will publish that figure.
Do you know if it's saving the government money?
We will publish the figures when we know them.
Does this give anyone any confidence, the answer she's giving here? Like, all of those people who kept saying, vote Labour no matter what and get the Tories out and all of this stuff, right? And they said, we'll push Labour to the left. All of those people have gone pretty quiet. And I'm more than happy to have a conversation with those people. More than happy. Because this is an abomination.
You can't publish a running total of how much money is being saved or not, because we also don't know how many pensioners are going to take that up. But it's not just that we are doing. Let me say this. Ultimately, the way that we get we make sure that pensioners are protected is we reduce the cost of energy through clean energy. We have more insulation in people's homes so the heat isn't flying out the windows and the doors, which is why we've got our Warm Homes plan. But we're not waiting for that. We've got the Warm Homes discount of £150 that pensioners can claim. The Household Support Fund, which can provide help for pensioners who are really struggling.
How much support is there for pensioners to actually get access to these funds as well? Like, who's helping them apply for all of these things when most of them wouldn't have any clue how to use a computer? Talking about the pension credit form, I think it's like multiple pages, tens of pages long with so many questions. Who's actually supporting the pensioners to fill out these documents? And how much is it costing for the government to sift through all of these documents and enable the payments? This is so stupid, honestly.
With their winter fuel bills, we're providing that support. I know that your listeners are listening to all of this and they want to know, why have we taken these decisions? And it is because we do need to have the public finances on a more settled course.
Liz Kendall, can you understand the question that I'm asking here? Can you understand the question I'm asking here, which is that this government has said that you are making difficult choices to remove some benefits in order to save the country money.
And I've replied already.
But you can't say whether it's saving money or not.
When the OBR looks at the books, and they will see how much has been saved and how.
Could you imagine if the government don't actually save any money from this policy? Could you imagine how stupid they're going to look?
We'll also have evidence around the take-up
Are you hoping that it will
will
save money?
I am hoping that pensioners get the money they are entitled to. So is the Chancellor.
Well, that's not an answer to the question, is it? Because the policy was...
Also, the fact the government sets the entitlements anyways. So, saying, I hope pensioners get the money they're entitled to, is like, that's fine, but you set the entitlements.
Designed to save money. And in the same way that the wider benefit policy changes, in the same way the wider benefit policy changes that you're talking about are supposed to save money, you can't say how they will save money.
Do you want to let me finish the question?
Well, you didn't let me ask the question.
You've said there's one reason. You've asked me one question, which is it was about saving the money, but it was also saying in the context of tight resources, you have to focus help.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. I was sat in the House of Commons chamber and I heard what Rachel Reeves said. She said the policy was designed to save money. And I'm asking you whether you hope it will save money, and you can't say whether you hope it will.
And to focus those on greatest need.
Just painful, and it just hurts watching some of this. Liz Candor is the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. She's committed to delivering savings, taking benefits and entitlements and things like that from people, which is 100% what she's doing. I found this clip really a bit hypocritical here, to be honest, from Rachel Johnson.
The fact that they put themselves into a straitjacket, which meant that this budget had to annoy a huge number of different groups of taxpayers, from pensioners to big business. Wouldn't it have been much simpler and politically more astute simply to raise income tax?
I agree with that, but the whole point is you guys kept spinning stuff and saying Labour are going to put taxes up. And because those idiots didn't know how to form sentences, they kept saying, no, we're not. And they had to rule out a load of taxes. This is the fault of the media, but also the Labour Party as well, for failing to be able to actually answer basic questions with basic answers.
Yeah, well, it would have been fairer to raise income tax. The problem is that they boxed themselves into the court by saying that they weren't going to do it. And bluntly, they always looked to me like they were strong favourites to win the general election, and they should probably have had the nerve to not make the kind of commitments that they did, because everybody knows income tax and VAT and national insurance are the ones that raise all the money. So I'm happy Labour are doing changes to inheritance tax. I'm happy that they're doing changes to capital gains tax. I think capital gains should be higher than income tax, in my opinion. So they're not going anywhere near far enough. But it depends which bands of income tax are they going to change. Does he want them to change the bottom rate, the middle rate, or the top rate? That's the question, and he doesn't really answer that here, although he's not really asked. So I think Rachel Johnson is being very disingenuous, because 100% she would attack Labour if they had a policy of, if they didn't rule out those tax increases. I wouldn't have. I would have been like, cool, if you want to increase the top rate or the middle rate, I've got no issue with that. No issue at all. But they ruled out these things, and like she said, they put themselves in a straitjacket and had no choice. You always have a choice, but they put it on businesses, and that means people are going to receive less money via pay rises. It's going to make things more difficult, and the fact that some of these businesses will not be as viable because of these changes. And I've got a video on that coming out soon about Rachel Reeves and the CBI. Regarding this, because she's really just messed this up. She shattered business confidence in the Labour Party, I think. And so all of that work, all of those salmon breakfasts and all that stuff, buttering up businesses, she's really quashed all that confidence within a year. It's just crazy. Not only within a year, within about 6 months. Crazy record levels of speed here. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.